Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Inside LSU Baseball. I am your host, Jason Armstrong, and we are going to talk about the Arkansas LSU series this weekend that resulted in LSU taking 2 out of 3 and now sits at the number 1 team in the country in all the latest polls. I know D1 Baseball had LSU 1, Baseball America. I think it's pretty consensus that LSU is now the top team in the land. Really impressive series. When you look back on the year and you can say that you won series against Tennessee and Arkansas in the same year, that's pretty impressive. And those are two teams you always want to make sure you beat. And you did so this year. So awesome weekend. A lot of good momentum going into this last. I can't believe it's the last weekend of the season coming up, and then it's Hoover and the postseason. So, as I mentioned, look, Tigers get the series, and that improves them to 17-10 in conference, which is good for third in the SEC. Arkansas now lands at 18-9, which is one game ahead of LSU and 2 games behind Texas for the conference lead. Big picture takeaways, it's LSU's consistency. And when I say that, if you look at the teams that are considered the best teams in the country, that are constantly talked about on all the different, whether it's podcasts or YouTube channel shows or whatever it is, and you look at the teams that are mentioned up there with some of the best. Let's talk about Arkansas first. We just played them. They had lost 3 straight series entering the Texas series last weekend. Now they win that one, but now they turn around, they lose to LSU, making it 4 losses out of the last 5 conference series. Still, this is a team talked about. I was listening to a podcast today. People I respect and I really like a lot, and they're sitting there going, I still might take Arkansas, as the top team to win it all. And I just, at some point, you got to look and go, okay, talent isn't everything. Texas is leading the SEC by 2 games. They've had a great year. They've lost 5 of their last 6 conference games, including 2 straight series losses. Georgia's another team that sits with the number 1 RPI right now. A lot of people are very high on. Georgia's been swept at Texas, at Vandy, and then just lost the series to Bama. Tennessee, we all know how talented Tennessee is, lost 5 of the last 6 series after dropping the rubber match to Vanderbilt yesterday. So I say all of that because I'm making a point that LSU has not seen the ups and downs like we see all around this league. After splitting their first 2 series, so you win the home against Mizzou, you go to Texas, you lose that one. LSU then swept 2 solid clubs, Mississippi State at home, Oklahoma on the road. And then the main blemish on LSU's body of work is the Auburn weekend. I mean, look, that stunk, but that happens sometimes. But they were rebounded by winning 2 straight series versus Alabama, who's right now has the number, I think, 8 or 9 RPI, and then Tennessee. So you dropped an extremely tight series to A&M in the last inning on the road, and then now you beat what many people think is the best team in the nation. So that's a very impressive and consistent 9 weeks of SEC results. And again, you can't say this team's lost 2 straight series, or they played bad for this period of time. When we were criticizing, I don't know about we, but a lot of the fan base and people in the media were criticizing Tennessee, it was because like they didn't score enough against Alabama, or even though they won the series against Tennessee, 2 excellent starting pitchers kind of held them down for most of the game. But it's all about wins and losses, and this team is extremely consistent. And that makes me feel really good about this team's chances going forward. So top 8 seed, because that's what everybody's talking about right now. And it comes down to this. Win the South Carolina series, and you are a top 8 seed and will play at the box throughout the postseason if you get to the College World Series in Omaha, Nebraska. So LSU right now has the number 7 RPI with 1 weekend remaining. The 3 games at South Carolina are they're going to be considered quad 2 games, so won't do a whole lot for LSU's RPI, but they are road wins in conference, so that does matter. You just don't want to drop a couple of these games because that would not be good. And then look, just looking at the other projected top 8 seeds and who's where in the RPI, I don't think much will change at the top of the RPI rankings. 1 through 5 will remain top 8 RPI teams, regardless of next weekend. The seedings can certainly change. So just because you're the number 8 RPI team doesn't mean you're going to be a top 8 seed, but it's a good gauge, and it does weigh in a whole lot when they select their top 8 seeds. But, Georgia, Auburn, Vandy, Texas, Arkansas, they'll all remain where they need to be in the RPI. And if you're just looking, Georgia won't benefit a ton. They play 3 home games against A&M, and I'm going by ranking where they rank right now in the RPI. Auburn could catch them for that top RPI spot. I'm not sure that you want to be the 1 seed. Although Tennessee did win it all last year, the first number 1 seed to win the championship since I think 1999, Miami did. Auburn, they go on the road to number, I think it's 17 RPI Ole Miss. And look, they pick up 2 road wins. That would be pretty significant as far as maybe catching Georgia in the RPI and being able to have an argument for the number 1 seed. And it does matter because if you advance out of your regional, you get paired up with the number 16, 16th best, or whatever. There's the lowest seeded team that you would match up with in the Super. So there is value to it. But anyway, number 3, Vandy, really locked it up with that win in Knoxville this past weekend. They've got Kentucky at home. So, they're not going to go anywhere. Number 4, Texas, they are floundering, but the resume is just too good. I mean, they lead the SEC by 2 games, and I don't think anybody's catching them. I'd say, you get a game at Oklahoma, and you should be fine. I think you're fine regardless. But Texas has 15 quad 1 wins, which is the most in the nation. Actually, Vandy also has 15, but so they just have a very good resume. Arkansas is hosting Tennessee. They're not going to go anywhere. The first spot where you look at a team that's number 6 in the RPI, they're projected a national seed, a top 8 seed right now, that could move out is Oregon State. I mean, they need to win 3 of their remaining 4 or 3 remaining home games to finish top 8 in RPI. But, I don't know. That team seems to be in danger because they're sitting at number 6. They play Portland and then 3 games against Long Beach State. If they drop 1 or even a couple, I don't know that they have the resume to match up with a lot of these other teams. LSU, I mentioned, is number 7. They just got to win 2 games to stay within the top 8. And I think they're going to be a top 8 seed regardless, what their RPI is, even if it drops to 8 or 9. I'll tell you, the race for the last spot is very interesting. Bama sits at number 8 in the RPI with 3 road games at Florida. And then the number 9 RPI and the number 11 team, Florida State and North Carolina, play each other the last weekend of the year, and it's at Florida State. So, it is worth watching because, look, worst case scenario would be for LSU to lose the series and say Bama wins 2 on the road at Florida, UNC wins 2 at Florida State. I mean, LSU may still get the spot, a top 8 seed over Bama because they got the head-to-head and they would finish ahead of them in conference. But you just don't know. It's not like they're sitting at 3 or 4 RPI. They're at number 7. So just win the series and you're good. And that's enough. I'm tired of saying RPI. Let's do some weekend analysis. As a whole, offensively, LSU went 30 for 103. They hit 291 on the weekend against a very good pitching staff. They scored 22 runs and hit 7 home runs. That is the most runs since the Mississippi State series, which was week 3. And you out-homered the number 2 home run hitting team in the conference. And this is after hitting more homers than the number 2 home run hitting team in the nation a couple of weeks prior when you went against Tennessee. So for a team that supposedly doesn't have a lot of power this year, and look, their home run numbers are down from what they've been the last 3 years, but they seem to be hitting home runs, when they need to against some of these top teams in the league. So look, they applied a ton of pressure, this LSU offense did, to Arkansas's pitching and defense. They led in all 3 games this weekend. They had runs on the board by the 3rd inning of every game, which is significant because LSU has struggled to score runs early in games. And so getting off to fast starts was important. They scored in 13 of the 26 innings they played this weekend. That is constant pressure. It's one thing to have a big inning here or there and win a game 4-3 after you scored 3 runs, but to score in 13 of 26 innings, I mean, that forces them to keep going to different bullpen arms. I love seeing that this weekend. Now, pitching, they held this hog offense that was leading the conference in almost every category to a 290 batting average, only 14 runs and 2 home runs. Arkansas, over their first 8 SEC series, was hitting 8 home runs a game, and LSU held them to, was it 2? Cam Kojal and Aloy. And I think those were both solo homers. That's a great job. Really good job. LSU pitching struck out Arkansas hitters 35 times over 3 games. That's strong. And there was really 2 innings where you lost focus. The 3-run 7th of game 1 and the 4-run 3rd inning of game 3. Outside of those, you really limited their offense to a run here, a run there. Just a really good job offensively and pitching by LSU. Defense, you committed 1 error all weekend. You turned 3 double plays. You had Stanfield making great catches in center field. Dickinson going behind first base to make, a play and where he spins around and throws a runner out at first. You had Braswell fielding a really evil short hop and throwing a guy out at first. Just a lot of good defensive plays. So I like what we saw all 3 phases. Even the base running, you took some more risk, and I like what we saw there. You stole a few bases. Ethan Fry advancing the ball in the dirt. Stanfield stole 3rd. So just a really solid overall job. Now, let's go by game real quick. Friday night game, late start due to rain, no problem. We're used to this, right? Ethan Fry sacrifice fly in the bottom of the 10th inning at 1:15 a.m. lifted LSU to a 5-4 win. Fry finished the game 2 for 4 on the night with a homer, 2 RBIs to lead a 9-hit attack by LSU. And that's against, Arkansas's ace and their ace relievers. So Cade Anderson was really good. He struck out 10, allowing only 3 runs over 5 2/3. 2 of the runs came via solo homers by Cam Koziel. Cam Koziel, I think you pronounce it, and then Kahio Eloy. When Anderson exited in the 6th, the Hogs were up 3-2. But he limited the big inning and he gave LSU a chance to win. I think he pitched even better than his numbers suggested. So Chase Shores and Zach Cowan combined for 4 1/3 innings of 1-run ball, only allowed one run. And it was really a battle of top-tier SEC relievers, and LSU's were just a tad bit better. LSU scored 2 runs to tie it in the 7th off of Aiden Jimenez, who behind Case and Evans had the lowest ERA in the conference. And then won the game in the 10th off of Gabe Gackle, who was a freshman, a preseason All-American. He started as Arkansas's ace pitcher. He's been unbelievable out the bullpen lately. So just a really impressive game overall. And look, LSU, I mentioned this, they did a tremendous job of applying pressure to Zach Root and the other relievers that Arkansas threw out there. You look at the 2nd inning, Tigers get a leadoff double by Fry, sack bunt by Pearson, and then they attempted that safety squeeze that required Zach Root to make like an unbelievable diving play to get the runner out at home. So you didn't get any runs, but you certainly had Arkansas a little nervous. 3rd inning, leadoff double by Stanfield. Curiel had like the swinging bunt to advance Stanfield, and then Jones hit the bloop single to score Stanfield. You go up 1-0. 4th inning, Ethan Fry hits a leadoff home run to go up 2-1. 6th inning, after Root made quick work of the leadoff batter, Jared Jones, he struck him out. Then Dickinson singled to left field. Fry then worked an 11-pitch at-bat, including 4 foul balls with 2 strikes. Just a great at-bat. He wound up grounding out. Koziel made a great play in the second base, first base hole to get Fry out. But look, that inning drove up the pitch count enough for Dave Van Horn to go to his bullpen. 7th inning, Jimenez, once again, the SEC's top reliever, sat down Luis Hernandez, and it didn't look too promising the way things were starting off, but Jake Brown fouled off 2 2-strike pitches and then singled to the left side. He beat the shift. Milam and Stanfield both laid off some close pitches, drawing walks, and then Curiel broke he tied it up, right? That's what he did. He broke out of a 1-for-15 slump and hit a game-tying 2 RBI single, making it 4-4. In the 10th inning, the leadoff single by Jones, wild pitch was exactly what LSU needed versus Gabe Gackle. Then Dickinson, his 3-2 situational ground out to first base was huge. They were not going to give Dickinson anything to hit with an open base. And Gabe Gackle's got such a good slider, he can almost just like place it on the outside corner. So like you either hit it, you either strike out or don't do much with it. And they were okay with walking Dickinson, but obviously hope for a strikeout. And Dickinson saw a bunch of those pitches. He even fouled off like a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, and then finally got one of those sliders that he did just enough to hit to first base and advanced, put Barrett Jones on third base, which ultimately was the winning run. He was able to tag up on Ethan Fry's sac fly to win it in extra innings. So there were also some very pivotal moments on the mound. If you look, first inning after a leadoff double by Davallon, Anderson strikes out Eloy, gets Maxwell to ground out, and then strikes out Koziel. So that's a great way to start when they're threatening with a leadoff double to start the entire series. Top of the second through the fourth, outside of the solo homer by Koziel in the fourth, Anderson was really good. From the second through the fourth, he struck out 5 batters and he was dealing. In top of the fifth, Helfrich leadoff double. Justin Thomas singled, and then Davalon hits a sac fly, tying the game. And then Cade Anderson retired Aloy on just 3 pitches. He struck him out, and then he got the Maxwell to ground out. So top of 6 to lead off the 6th inning. Kahio Aloy hit a first pitch, 82-mile-per-hour changeup over the left field fence. I'm not even sure why he was even sitting on that pitch because it's not something that Anderson throws a lot. It was Anderson's 100th pitch of the game. So he didn't have a lot of room for error right now after that. He answers by striking out Kojal on 3 pitches, and then he got Iredale looking on a 3-2 pitch. And this is where he kind of felt some soreness in his wrist, so they replaced him with Shores. But look, it was very important to retire those 2 batters after the home run. And from there, Shores took over, got out of the inning. So another pivotal moment. Top of the 8th, Cowan enters, and he walks the first batter, Kahio Aloy, to start the inning. He then executed a beautiful first pitch changeup to Kojal, and Jones turned one of the most impressive double plays I can remember. Milam was playing on Dickinson's side of second base when Jones fielded it, and the ball got on Jones quick. He spun with no sight of Milam, and Milam made the catch on his way to the bag and fired a dart back to Jones. When Jones made the catch, he was not on the bag. He was 10 feet from the bag when he threw it to Milam. So he had to hustle back, caught it, keeping his eyes on Milam on the return throw, and then had to find the base, with his foot. So, it was an incredible play. And after that, Cowan got Iredale out front on a slider, and Reeves made a very good play going, cut in front of the shortstop to get us out of the inning. Top of the 10th, another one of those moments where the pitching came through. It's a 4-4 game, and Vahiva Aloy led off with a single. Diggs then sack bunts him over to second. Go-ahead run is now on second with 1 out, and Arkansas has Kahio Aloy and Kojal due up. So after an intentional walk to set up the force, you had a hit by pitch to Iredale, and then Arkansas has the bases loaded now. And Collins sat down Robinette, the left-handed hitter, with a masterful pitch sequence. First pitch, he showed him a breaking ball that was kind of up in the zone, all right? And it caught the top of the zone for the first strike. He then elevated a fastball out of the zone that got Robinette to chase it. So he's up 0-2. I think he then he might have came back and wasted a pitch, but then he got Robinette swinging for the third strike on another elevated fastball. And again, because he started him off with that breaking ball that was really up in the zone, Robinette doesn't know if that ball is going to, it's starting high and it's going to break over for a strike or not. So he chases it. He does a check swing, and that was the last out of the inning. And ultimately, we know how this game ended offensively. So just a real pivotal moments on the mound. A lot of pressure offensively. Just really good job. A few things that stood out to me in this game. Chase Shores has emerged as a real game changer in this LSU bullpen. That's 3 straight outings now, by the way. Outside of one bad pitch, Shores was very solid. Very solid. The pitch I'm referring to, if you remember, it was a 2-2 slider to Aloy in the 7th inning that got away from him. It sailed over Hernandez's mitt, and it was costly because Thomas moved from second to third base on that pitch and then scored on the next pitch, which was a soft ground. It was a big one-hopper off the bat of Vahiva Aloy, and Braswell threw him out at first, but that got a run in. But look, even against Justin Thomas, who led off with the single that inning, Shores was executing. He had him down 1-2, and then Thomas got just enough of a well-placed slider to flick it into shallow center field. just really impressed by the 6'7" right-hander lately. So Shorts finished with an inning in a third, allowed a couple hits, the one run, but walked 0. 12 of his 17 pitches were strikes. And look, if you combine, so at that point, take that and his appearance against A&M, and that was 2 back-to-back high-leverage outings. He didn't walk a batter, and 36 of his 52 pitches were strikes. That's 69% strikes. So, and that's not even counting his Game 3 performance, which he was good then. So, other thing that stood out to me about this game, a very gutsy offensive performance. This is an offense that had been struggling at times, okay? You managed to score just 2 runs versus their ace, and that's about what you're used to scoring in a lot of these games. You're down 2 runs in a game that Anderson was knocked out of the game. Maybe, they did have 3 runs off of him. His pitch count was elevated. He had the sore wrist. And so, Anderson's knocked out, and the Hogs can now turn things over to 2 relievers, Jimenez and Gackel. Like, it didn't look promising, and you showed a lot of resolve battling back right there. It set the tone for a 30-hit weekend, and just love seeing the offense perform the way they did, not just this game, but all weekend. So Saturday night was a statement win. You're up 1-0. You're playing for the series win. And look, Jake Brown homered twice in the game, drove in 5 runs. It was a 13-3 run rule victory. Brown was 3 for 5 with a 3-run homer in the first, a leadoff homer in the third, and then an RBI single in the fifth. Anthony Ianson, who's now 8-2, worked 6 shutout innings, allowing just 5 hits, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. This guy is so good, y'all. I mean, I love this 1-2 punch so much. Ethan Fry contributed a 3-run homer, his 10th of the year, had 4 RBIs. Cade Aaron Beatty homered for the 4th time this season, collected a career-best 3 hits. Arkansas scored 3 runs in the 7th off of Maverick Rizzi, which cut the lead to 12-3, but the Tigers walked it off on one of the strangest things I've seen. It was a strikeout where Milam runs down to first base to, on a 3rd strike, and Helfrich, I guess the runner on 3rd, Dickinson's hung up, so they try to throw to him to 3rd base to get him out. He then heads home. It was just wild. What a way to walk off, and that's pretty impressive, y'all. We walked off Tennessee and Arkansas in back-to-back home series, so look, from the jump, you had to like the way things were looking in Game 2. Ianson goes out there and, just goes through their first 3 hitters, the top 3 in their lineup, like a knife through hot butter, all right? Or is it a hot knife through butter? Whatever it is, you get what I'm saying. Only 11 pitches, and the Tigers are back in the dugout. On the flip side, Curiel sees 5 pitches from Wood before he singles. Great sign for him. And that's how you start the bottom half of the first inning. After Dickinson drew a walk, Brown then blasted a 3-run bomb. I found it very interesting how confident Jake Brown looked after getting down 0-2. And it was, I believe, 2 fastballs that he took. He's down 0-2. And Wood spun a breaking ball that Brown seemed to know was coming. I mean, he had no business hitting that pitch. Now, it wasn't a great 0-2 pitch, but it still had a lot of break. And after the way he was throwing that 97-mile-per-hour fastball, Brown had no business being right on that joker, and he just hit the tar out of it. What a great at-bat. Ethan Fry then followed it up with a 2-2 single on a breaking ball as well. Same type of thing. The plan they had for Wood seemed to be working perfectly. They were just, it was like they knew what was coming. So the Tigers are up 3-0 after 1. Aaron Beatty led off this, was it the 2nd inning with the home run? And the box was cooking. I mean, it was awesome. It took Gage Wood 60 pitches to complete 2 innings compared to just 23 pitches for Anthony Ianson. I mentioned in the lead up, Wood had only thrown 14 innings this year, 14 1/3, and only 3 of them were in conference on the road. So that's a big deal. And this is just what the doctor ordered for LSU. I mean, getting his pitch count up, jumping all over him. Now, even when the Hogs seemed to have something cooking in the third, they had the bases loaded, one out, and Vahiva Aloy and Logan Maxwell up. These are two guys hitting well over 300. One's got 9 homers. One's got like 17 homers. And Einstein strikes them both out. I mean, the guy is just so good. Fry hit a 3-run homer in the 5th inning to put LSU up 12-0. What an offensive explosion. 4 of Iantson's 6 innings ended with him striking out the last batter he faced. Just so impressive. I mean, I think came out of the game because it was so lopsided. And I think it was at 92 pitches. He could have easily finished the 7th inning. And, if this was a tighter game, he had still put himself in position to probably go into maybe even the 8th inning, So great job by him, giving us just a lot of length lately. Now, biggest takeaways from game 2 was obviously the offensive explosion, but also a reminder of how elite this 1-2 punch of Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson are. Just looking back, LSU's had some good, Friday, Saturday starting combos. You had in 2023, the year they won it all, you had Skeens and Floyd. That was a very good combo. Floyd really, both of those guys, they made 20 starts in SEC play. Floyd got a lot better towards the end of the season. Then last year, that 1-2 punch was even better. The jump Holman, the job they did was really good. And then this year, Anderson and Ianson, I think is the best yet. So I went ahead and compared Ianson and Anderson's this 1-2 punch to the last couple years. And if you compare them, look at Anderson and Ianson combined. They have thrown 100 through 9 starts. All of this is through 9 starts, okay? 9 SEC starts. Anderson and Ianson have thrown 105 pitches. Jumpin' Holman had thrown 95 and 2/3 innings. 105 innings compared to 95 and 2/3 innings by Jumpin' Holman last year. Now, the one thing that Jumpin' Holman did such a great job of, and that was those are great pitchers. They only gave up 79 hits in those 95 and 2/3 innings. Anderson and Ianson have given up 93 hits. So that's a little bit more. But they've only walked Ianson and Anderson 36 walks to 41 walks from Jump Holman. And this is the big one. Jumpin' Holman struck out 113 batters through 9 starts. Anderson and Ianson have struck out 168. So you're talking about Anderson's got a 4.28 ERA. Ianson has a 2.86 ERA. I mean, the 2.86 ERA through 9 starts. The only start of the last 3 years who is in that realm is Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens through 9 starts had a 2.10 ERA. Ianson's got a 2.86 ERA. Paul Skeens threw 55 and 2/3 innings through 9 starts. Ianson, 50 and a third innings. Skeens gave up 38 hits through 9 starts. Ianson, 43. And then, look, Skeens struck out 104. That's ridiculous. But Ianson sitting at 81 strikeouts in 50 innings. So this is an incredible 1-2 punch. And LSU has had some good ones the last 3 years of Jay Johnson's tenure. So that's how you go far, I think, in the postseason when you got 2 guys that can – and this is like the first year no, I would say last year too, where you don't have to worry about who you're starting, right? Like you had the regional when Paul Skeens wound up pitching against Tulane, but a lot of people, hey, do you start Floyd? That doesn't matter anymore. You can throw either one of these 2 pitchers no matter who you're playing, and that's a luxury. Not a lot of teams have that. Other thing that was a big takeaway game 2, Aaron Beatty's 3 hits were really nice to see. Also great to see another solid outing by Jaden Newt. He retired all 3 batters he faced. So you get to game 3 on Sunday, and it is time to go for the sweep. You got the series in hand, and this can be a tough game for a team who's already won the series to win, because you're trying to sweep most likely one of those games that your opponent lost. They probably held on. It's like when you're beating a team 12-0, they're probably going to hold on to a couple of arms for game 3. So they might even have a better bullpen situation than you. You're also maybe, I don't know. Of course, you want to win every game, but I think you take a deep breath when you win the first 2 games of a series. But looking at game 3, Arkansas scored 4 runs in the top of the 3rd inning after LSU was up 2-0, and Razorbacks wound up posting a 7-4 win, avoiding the sweep. Jason Evans, who's now 3-1, was charged with the loss as he allowed 4 runs on 7 hits in 3 2/3 innings. He gave up, he allowed 3 walks and had 4 strikeouts. So Tigers grabbed a 2-0 lead in the bottom of the 2nd inning when Luis Hernandez and shortstop Stephen Milam each homered, both solo home runs. Arkansas responded with 4 runs in the top of the 3rd, so to go up 4-2. LSU did narrow the gap to 4-3 in the bottom of the 3rd on an RBI single by Hernandez. Man, he plays well on Sundays. And then with 2 outs in the 4th, Jay went back to chase Shores, and he escaped with 2 runners on. Shores was really good again, guys. The blemish was a leadoff walk to start the 5th. Runner would advance on a ground out. Iredale singled, and then the run scored on another ground out. So only 1 hit, but the leadoff walk cost him. The score stayed 5-3 until the 8th inning, when Josh Pearson and Milam delivered back-to-back singles, and then Stanfield got an RBI on a ground out that he almost beat out. So you're talking about a 5-4 game late in the game. Shores retired 6 straight, 4 by strikeout from what inning was that? Up until maybe it was when he came in. There was a string where, he had like 6 straight 4 by strikeout, and then he gave up a 2-out single in the 7th. Cooper Williams started the 8th inning, and after, I believe that he struck out the leadoff hitter. He had Justin Thomas, on a 3-2 pitch, and this is where the ump went to ring up Thomas, and he wound up not calling it a strike, and Jay got tossed from the game. But what I loved, Jacob Myers relieved Cooper Williams with 2 outs right here, a runner on 3rd, and Vahiva Aloy up. And Jacob Myers got ahead on 299. He got ahead on a 99-mile-per-hour fastball, that first pitch that Aloy looked at. Then he threw a 99-mile-per-hour fastball that he swung and missed on. And then I believe that he threw one in the dirt to get him to chase, maybe a fastball to make it 1-2. And then he snapped off just a ridiculous slider that Aloy had no chance of hitting. And that is a really impressive job right there. You're talking about a 5-4 game that you go to Jacob Myers, and he throws 4 pitches. 3 of them are beautiful strikes, and the one he threw a ball was a waste pitch. So just really encouraging the number of bullpen arms that we're seeing make some steps. Main takeaways. Let me talk about Jason Evans. You may not like what I'm about to say. You may not agree with me. I don't like Jason Evans in the Game 3 starter role. I just don't. Okay? You might disagree with me. You might not like what I'm saying. But we have taken maybe the top reliever in the conference, a guy who was our closer that when he came in, you knew the game was over. Okay? And we've put him into a role that the first week, look, he was good against Tennessee. But we've now watched him struggle the last 2 starts. And it's really a matter of his pitch count getting very elevated, He's not having as much command of the changeup like he was coming out the pen. And when that's happening, what made him so difficult out the bullpen was his fastball. He was throwing it up to 98, 99 sometimes. He had such good life on it and could mix in the off speed, the slider, and the changeup. Well, when he's struggling to land the changeup and the off speed stuff, and now he's trying to pace himself the fastball for, to start from multiple innings. You're seeing it a little bit, velocity's a little bit down, and they really hit him. This Arkansas is a good team, but I think they really hit him. And look, I'm looking at this deal for the postseason, and to me, the best version of LSU includes Jason Evans coming out of the pen where he excelled over the first 40 games of the season. I mean, where was he really good? In the bullpen. Where is Chase Shores really good? As a reliever. I think you look at where has this guy been most effective, and I just really like him. And I also worry about him. Look, I know he's strong mentally, but this guy didn't think anybody was touching him when he came out the bullpen. I don't want this, him to get in a situation where he's starting to, his confidence and lacking, and maybe he's not, but I just loved having him to go to late in games and just knowing there was nothing anybody could do against him. I think they need to put him back in the pen versus South Carolina and in Hoover so he can get back to whatever routine he's in, because I can assure you, they get to postseason and they get in a jam, they will go to Jason Evans. I promise you that. And I don't want it to be the first time he's pitching in relief after, weeks of being a starter. So I'd really like them to go back to him in the bullpen these next couple weeks before regionals. Now, do I have a great solution for Sunday? Not really, but you could probably piece together 3 2/3 innings, giving up 4 runs with some of the other guys that, you've got. I mean, maybe you don't, but I feel like maybe you could. Look, William Schmidt has been very good as a starter. He's 7-0. He's been great in the midweek. He's not effective out of the bullpen. So that's another one of those deals. Maybe you start him because he's good as a starter. We're asking him to be good as a reliever, and it's just not really working out for him. So, again, maybe start William Schmidt in Hoover in one of these games that there's not as much on the line. Look, who knows? Maybe this weekend. I mean, I do think that we might see a change there. I would be surprised if Evans is the game 3 starter, just because he's so valuable, and we're going to need him down the stretch. So that's my take as far as Jason Evans go. And look, I love Jason Evans. I'm the biggest fan of Jason Evans you will see. Could he be a great starter? Absolutely. I don't say it because I don't think he's a good starter. I say it because I think he's so valuable out the bullpen. And look, going back to bullpen, Christian Fauch in that game 3 and Cole Gibbler, they retired 9 of 11 batters that they faced from the 5th, 6th, 7th inning. That's a very deep bullpen on day 3 of a series. I mean, the guys they're running out there, elite. And LSU was in a great position, but couldn't get some of those bullpen arms to step up. Rizzi faced 6 batters this weekend. He allowed 3 hits, and he walked 2. He got 1 out. William Schmidt has made 5 SEC appearances. He has walked 11 and has 1 strikeout. And that's really unfortunate, because I feel like there's times throughout the year where those guys are just so promising. And I wouldn't give up on either one of them yet, because I think Rizzi actually did a decent job. When he came in, bases loaded, no outs, he got the first guy in on the hands, infield fly, pop up. Then he got ahead and gave up a 1-2 single to right field. Then he walked a guy. So, look, I don't love the walks and all of that, but, he just needs some good outings. He's a very good, very talented guy. William Schmidt, I'm just not sure what the deal is, other than he's just not very good out of the bullpen, especially. And that's all he's done in SEC play. I'd love to see him start like he's done in midweek games and see how he does there. So going into the series, I made a video. I talked about it on the podcast. And I said there were 3 players that I believe would significantly impact the weekend. Let's take a look at those 3 players, okay? Danny Dickinson. I felt like he needed to get back on track. It was a big thing for him protecting Jerry Jones. And he went 5 for 14. He hit 357. He scored 4 runs. And he moved the winning run to third on that, the final tag up to win game 1. That was because of the way he fought off, Gabe Gackel's two strike pitches. He actually got the magic moment for game 1. So Dickinson, great job by him this weekend. Stephen Milam, he was another one of my guys that I said, I really think for this team to have the weekend they need to have, he's going to be very involved. He was 3 for 12, scored 2 runs, and had a home run. Had a great slide. They actually called him out and then overturned it. It was the tying run when Aaron, who was it? Oh my goodness. Curiel hit the 2 RBI single to make the game 4-4. That was Milam. And if you look at the video, it wasn't just a good slide. Before he slid, you saw him start to belly out just enough. It was the difference in him being safe when they went to instant replay. So I think that Milam was a factor this weekend. And then Chris Stanfield. Look, Chris Stanfield was 2 for 6. He had a bad weekend last weekend at Texas A&M. In that 9-hole, he's so important to this offense, turning the lineup over. He was 2 for 6. He had a double, an RBI. He scored 2 runs, and he walked 3 times and had 0 strikeouts. So I do think all 3 of those guys, I wasn't predicting that they were going to win the series, but I do think that they had better series and when did contribute. Some other standouts this weekend, Ethan Fry went 4 for 7 in the 2 games LSU won, including 6 RBIs and 2 walks. Brown was 5 for 8 with 5 RBIs and 2 home runs this weekend. Derek Curiel, 3 for 9 with 2 RBIs in the 2 wins that LSU had. The other, it's 2 people I want to highlight is the catching position. I talked about this a lot a couple of weeks ago, how LSU was getting nothing from their catchers. Offensively, it was like a bad streak where they were like maybe 1 for 17 or 1 for 15. They weren't getting anything. The catching position this weekend went 5 for 12 with 2 home runs and 3 RBIs on Saturday and Sunday. So, I mean, that is a pretty impressive. Is that Saturday and Sunday? I know they went 0 for 3. Hernandez went 0 for 3 game 1. Then Aaron Beatty went 3 for 4. That is, okay, maybe that's overall. Maybe that's overall for the whole weekend. 5 for 12, 2 home runs, 3 RBI. I think that is. And look, Luis Hernandez on game 3s, the last 3 weekends. Go look at the stats against A&M, against Tennessee, and now Arkansas. He has been phenomenal. So I want to point one thing out. I think that LSU did a good job pitching to Arkansas. That's an incredible lineup. And they really did spread out the hits amongst them. I mean, like Kahil Aloy hit the home run against Anderson. He didn't kill LSU, but I think he had like a hit in each game. I think Charles Davalon, I would put him up there with Gavin Keelan from Tennessee, Cade Snell from Alabama, just guys you cannot really get out. They're just tremendous hitters. And I think he had the maybe 1-2 hit game, but I think he had 1 hit in over the other 2 games. He was okay, but he didn't go crazy. So you had guys that, Iredale had 2 games where he was over, and then I think game 3 he had 2 hits. So they had a lot of guys contribute at times, but Vahiva Aloy is their best hitter. He went 2 for 12 with 2 singles and 8 strikeouts. He had the hat trick in 2 games and then struck out twice in the other game. So just a really good job handling their best hitter. But look, overall, just unbelievable weekend, unbelievable win, great resume builder. And like I mentioned, this team has just been consistent the entire year. Hasn't been a whole lot of valleys. Auburn wasn't great, but for the most part, they've been a good team. And look, we've been critical. I say I point out when there's struggles, but I think there's a lot of folks that, again, even you listen to national media, that were down on LSU's offense. Still this weekend I heard that they don't have a lot of bullpen arms. I don't know what this team's got to do. They're number 1 in the country right now. Look to be a top 8 seed. I don't know how you're beating them at the box, and I don't know how you're beating them with the 2 starting pitchers they've got. So I talk about it all the time. You take Ianson, you take Anderson, throw in Cowan and Evans as relievers, and now Chase Shores, and then you start piecing. This is a very good team, and they're sitting at 17 wins right now. You go back to 2022, Jay Johnson's squad won 17 SEC wins, 17 games. 2023, the team that won it all, they won 19 games. And look, 1 game got rained out, but I don't think they were winning that game at South Carolina. I think if you're being honest, they won game 2. They had to come back and heroics from Gavin Dugas, but I don't know they won a game 3. At that time, they didn't really have a Sunday starter that was performing. So my point is they won 17 games in 2022, 19 games, which was one of the best college teams of all time. They won 19 conference games. Last year, you finished with 13 conference wins. And now you're in position. You're sitting at 17-10. You should win 2 games. And if for some reason you sweep, that will be the best job in SEC play in Jay Johnson's tenure. And look, we still find things to critique this team on. So, which is fair. That's what we do. But look, that's going to do it. Thanks for joining me. Like always, appreciate you. It's a short week. There's no midweek game. The series kicks off at South Carolina Thursday, so it's going to be a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I will be back with a preview of the South Carolina series, and maybe by then we've got some more clarity on a couple of things. We'll talk about maybe if anything comes out on Cade Anderson's wrist injury, which I anticipate is going to be fine. If there's any changes to RPI and the new national seed projections will be out sometime either later today or tomorrow. So lots of good stuff we'll talk about then. But thanks again for joining me, and we will talk to you soon.